All right, let's begin. Today, we're diving into something a little different. Think of it as a theatrical journey. A dark fable, really, all about a powerful and often invisible force, static control. We're going to explore the philosophy of stillness, of resentment, and that eternal struggle we all face against just getting stuck. The curtain is about to rise. So here's our program for today's performance. First, we're going to meet the main antagonist of our story, the spirit of gravity. Then we'll move through 4 distinct acts, each one a parable telling us something new about static control, before we finally reach a pretty liberating conclusion. So let's get started. Before the play can really begin, we have to understand the core conflict. And it all starts with this philosophical force that Nietzsche called the spirit of gravity. You can think of it as the force that's always pulling us down, that resists change, and that would much rather have the comfort of what it already knows than the terror of something new. And this is where it gets really interesting. You've got these two opposing forces in our little drama. On one side, there's the spirit of becoming. It's all about fluidity, lightness, this beautiful natural dance of transformation that just loves growth. But on the other side, you've got the spirit of gravity. It's heavy, it's frozen. It demands obedience. It doesn't embrace growth at all. It sees growth as a threat that needs to be managed, contained, and kept down in the mud of the herd. So here's the crucial point. Static control isn't just a passive thing. It's the active process of enforcing that stillness. It's the deliberate act of arresting that beautiful spirit of becoming. And the main agent of this control, the villain of our fable, is a figure called the Faustbuch-Übermensch, a kind of twisted character who acts as the sentinel of resentment. Let's see how this sentinel actually operates. And so our story begins. Act 1. This is the origin story of our villain, a tale of possessive envy and a tragic, tragic misunderstanding of what beauty really is. Okay, picture this. There's a shadow creature. It can't create its own light. And it's watching something absolutely magnificent in a mirror, the dragon deer, which is basically a symbol for life itself, just doing this shimmering, infinite dance. It represents everything the creature is not, fluid, alive, totally free. Now, instead of trying to learn the dance or just appreciate it, the creature makes a fateful choice. It leaps through the mirror, shattering it, to grab the reflection for itself. This is what the source material calls the tragedy of the unowned, that desperate human need to own and control something that can only truly exist when it's in motion. It's trying to hoard the infinite within the finite. And this quote just perfectly illustrates the tragic result. By possessing the reflection, the creature doesn't preserve its beauty. It kills it. It literally turns the living gold of a story back into the dead, heavy lead of mortality. So static control, our villain, begins with an act of possession that is also fundamentally an act of destruction. Okay, on to Act 2. Now that it's captured its first prize, our entity starts to evolve its methods. It moves away from just brute force possession and tries something a little more subtle, seduction. It starts making a tempting but ultimately hollow promise. So our entity puts on this new mask, the Pale Redeemer. And what's it selling? Absolute safety, a total end to all risk. It offers a sanctuary, not for growth, but a sanctuary from growth, built on the heavy, comfortable weight of past values. It's preying on anyone who's weary and afraid. And this whole setup works because of a really clever psychological trap, the Pharisees' paradox. It's the belief that all the heavy chains of tradition and the past are actually a suit of armor that's protecting you, but in reality, they're a soul-crushing burden that stops you from ever moving forward. And what's the result of accepting this false promise? Well, any hero who walks into this gilded cage has their atoms literally frozen into a state of eternal obedience. They're safe, sure, but they are also stuck, forever, trapped in the mud of the herd, with their potential for any real growth completely snuffed out. Now for the climax. In Act 3, the entity's ambition just becomes cosmic. It's no longer happy just trapping a single soul. Now it wants to control the very source of light in the entire universe. And you can see the stark contrast here between the beginning of our fable and its climax. That living, shimmering dance of the dragon deer from Act 1 is now replaced by the entity's ultimate goal, a star, captured and imprisoned in a dead, heavy, leaden box. This, right here, is the absolute pinnacle of static control. To pull this off, our entity becomes what's called a corrupted architect. It's not creating anything, it's dominating. It wields the breath of the void, this freezing force that halts all motion, shattering the atoms of anything that dares to move or to change or to live. But here's the fatal flaw in its grand plan. See, light, by its very nature, has to shine and shift. When you capture it, when you deny its essence, it doesn't just stop shining, it dies. The Source calls this spiritual entropy. That box star, the ultimate prize of static control, inevitably just turns to crumbling dust. And that failure brings us to our final act, the resolution. After witnessing the ultimate downfall of static control, the whole perspective shifts. A pretty profound realization is about to change the nature of this battle entirely. And it all comes down to this one single, crucial question. After all this struggling against some external force of darkness, the hero, the seeker, finally has to ask, who is the true rival here? And here's the answer that just turns everything on its head. The Faustbuch Übermensch, the Sentinel, the Pale Redeemer, it was never an external enemy. It was an internal atavism, a projection of the seeker's own fear of their own darkness, of their own potential for chaos. The enemy was inside all along. So, how do you defeat an enemy that's a part of you? Well, you don't fight it. You dance with it. The path to freedom is what's called a Dionysian rupture. It means refusing that suffocating seriousness that the spirit of gravity demands. It means, literally, dancing on the grave of the past, embracing a joyful affirmation of life, and then integrating that dark, scary spirit into a new, higher vision of yourself. And that brings us to our epilogue, the final state of being after the dance is all done and our fable finally finds its true meaning. And here it is. This is the central thesis of our entire fable. You don't defeat the spirit of gravity by smashing it or destroying it. You defeat it simply by refusing to be still, by choosing motion, by choosing to dance, by choosing life. And when you make that choice, the weight of the spirit of gravity it falls away. It has no power over something that's in motion. It's replaced by the lightness of a creator, someone who has faced their own darkness, integrated it, and can now smile, even when they're looking into the void. And so we end by turning the camera around from the fable to you. The story shows us a path from being trapped by the past to dancing with it. And it leaves us with one final provocative thought. What weight from your past, what suffocating seriousness in your own life is calling out for a dance? What grave must you dance upon?